For centuries after the fall of Rome, Western Europe lost access to the intellectual heavyweights of the ancient world. While their works were missing from Latin libraries, they remained central to scholarship further east. When the Abbasid caliphate consolidated power in Baghdad in the mid-8th century, they launched a massive effort to translate the intellectual inheritance of antiquity. This was an aggressive, imperial-scale acquisition of knowledge. 2 centuries later, an 18-year-old medical prodigy named Ibn Sina, known in the Latin West as Avicenna, cured a local ruler. His reward was exclusive access to the royal library of the Samanid dynasty, a massive collection he later wrote he had never seen its equal. Inside, he found a staggering wealth of translated material. He had nearly the entire corpus of Aristotle at his fingertips, along with substantial works by Plato, Galen, and scientific treatises gathered from Indian and Persian traditions. He read everything in it. This inherited library created a fascinating tension. These thinkers now possessed the razor-sharp tools of Greek logic. The challenge was figuring out how to reconcile that pure, rigorous reasoning with Islamic divine revelation. Early Arabic philosophers like Al-Kindi argued that truth is universal and that Greek philosophy should be welcomed wherever it leads. Avicenna took that principle and built a complete philosophical system around it. His driving question explored the relationship between what a created thing is, its nature or essence, and the fact that it actually exists. A horse's nature, for example, doesn't require that any horse actually walk the earth. The two concepts are separate. Avicenna reasoned that there must be one singular being whose very essence is existence itself, a being that cannot not exist. He called this the necessary existent. From this single source, he argued, everything else in the universe flows outward by strict, unbreakable rational necessity. Avicenna had constructed a logical architecture for the divine. By framing the universe as a product of rational necessity, he suggested the human mind could understand reality through logic alone. To make the absolute limits of his system vivid, Avicenna designed a thought experiment known as the flying man. Imagine a person created fully formed in midair. They are blindfolded. Their limbs are separated so they touch absolutely nothing. They have zero sensory input of any kind and no memories to draw upon. If you strip away every physical sensation and bodily feeling, would this person still be aware of their own existence? Avicenna insisted the answer is yes. The mind knows itself before it knows the world. If awareness remains without any bodily input, then consciousness is not a byproduct of physical matter. Fast forward to 12th century Cordoba. A philosopher and judge named Averroes took this absolute confidence in human reason and codified it into a legal ruling. Averroes operated on a blunt principle. Truth does not contradict truth. If a rigorous philosophical demonstration conflicts with the apparent literal meaning of Scripture, then the Scripture must be interpreted allegorically. He argued that for those with the capacity to understand it, the study of philosophy is an intellectual obligation. Pure logical deduction, in his view, was a necessary tool for understanding revelation. But this supreme confidence in logic provoked a fierce reaction. In 1095, the theologian Al-Ghazali published a devastating rebuttal titled The Incoherence of the Philosophers. Al-Ghazali attacked the rationalists on 20 separate points. He declared 3 of Avicenna's arguments to be outright apostasy, specifically targeting the philosophical claim that the physical world is eternal rather than created in time. His deepest argument struck at the very concept of causation itself. When you watch a flame touch a piece of cotton, the cotton burns. Al-Ghazali argued that the fire does not cause the burning. God burns the cotton. When we watch the flame and the ash, we are observing a regularity in nature, not an absolute logical necessity. Because God is completely free to break any pattern at any moment, the laws of nature are simply a habit. The fire could touch the cotton and nothing could happen at all. For Al-Ghazali, human reason pushed to its absolute limit does not achieve certainty. It only discovers its own total dependency on a higher, unknowable power. In the Sunni Muslim world, Al-Ghazali's perspective largely prevailed. The specific tradition of rationalist philosophy receded, gradually absorbing into theology and mysticism. Averroes wrote a point-by-point rebuttal to Al-Ghazali, but his arguments lost traction at home. However, his meticulous commentaries on Aristotle survived by traveling north centuries prior. Thomas Aquinas, the bedrock of Western Christian theology, relied heavily on these translations to write his masterwork, the Summa Theologica. In his writings, Aquinas refers to the Islamic philosopher Averroes simply and respectfully as the commentator. The transmission line of logic ran from Athens to Baghdad, through Cordoba, and finally to Paris. The intellectual reawakening of the Christian West was built upon the work of Arabic-speaking scholars who had translated and refined these foundational ideas. If you believe your deepest convictions can withstand any scrutiny, do you side with Averroes, insisting that any conflict between faith and logic requires reinterpreting the faith? Or do you agree with Al-Ghazali, believing that the most brilliant human intellect is the one that knows exactly where to stop,